How's it going, guys? Welcome back, meletispix here. In this video I want to answer the most common question I get on my social media, and that is, how do I edit my pictures for Instagram? What kind of filters, what kind of presets do I use? And rather than actually handing you my presets so that your pictures can look more like mine, I would rather teach you the workflow I use to create them, so that you too can have a consistent looking Instagram feed with your own unique visual style. I use Lightroom on my computer to create these presets, so if you guys don't have Lightroom yet, consider getting it because it's an amazing tool. So yeah, let's jump into Lightroom and see how I do it. Okay, here we are in Lightroom. I have a picture of a tram in the city of Basel in Switzerland that we can work with. There are a few different edits that I do to all of my pictures just so that I can basically enhance them before I start tweaking the colors. These involve setting the white balance to as shot, because I always shoot white balance at auto, and I can go from there if I need any changes. I usually underexpose my pictures, so it's a good idea to pump up those shadows, lower the highlights because I like to get that detail back in the sky. What that does is it washes out the image a bit, so you want to add a bit of contrast. That looks nice. Also, I add a bit of clarity and a bit of vibrance. I prefer to add vibrance rather than saturation, as it's a more sophisticated way of adding color. Then I also like to go to the Details tab and add some sharpening. Remember, this is for Instagram, so the adjustments you do shouldn't be subtle. You should, especially the sharpening, you can add quite a bit of it. And if you click Alt and drag the masking adjustment up, whatever is black is not going to be sharpened, so you want to drag it up so that things like flat walls or the sky won't be adjusted. Usually around 70 is fine for most situations. Remember, this is a preset that you want to be able to use on all your other pictures as well as a starting point. I also like to remove some of the noise in the luminance and the color, because when Instagram compresses those images, if you have noise, it will be amplified. So remember to increase the noise reduction. That's what I do in the Details tab. Now if we go to the Lens Corrections tab, I like to remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. If it doesn't automatically identify your lens, you can search for it in here. If you don't find it, I think you need to update your Lightroom. But what this does is it removes some generic vignetting of lenses and perspective distortion that it might have. So you can see the difference here. Alright, one last thing I like to add to all my pictures is a bit of dehazing, and that's in the Effects tab. Just drag it up a bit. This brings back some of the detail in the skies and adds a bit of contrast. Depending on what kind of image you have, you want to either increase it or reduce it, but as a starting point, around 20 is perfect. As you can see, our image has quite a bit of punch now. Let's see what it would look like before and what it looks like now. That's a good starting point. So the real magic happens in the hue, saturation and luminance tabs, and also the split toning. So what we want to do here, depending on your likes and dislikes, is basically tweak the colors to something that is different and something that you will enjoy seeing in your feed. So what hue does is change the colors up. So if I click on this little icon here and I click and drag on this yellow zebra lines here, you will see that they're shifting from yellow to either greenish color or purple color. So let's say you're not a big fan of yellow colors and you want to shift them to the orange. You can click and drag that down. You can also do that from this adjustment here in the yellow tab. And let's say that's the color you're looking for yellows, but it's a bit too dark for you. If you go to the luminance tab right here and you click the same tool and you go up, this will brighten it up. If you go down, it will darken it, of course. So let's say we want to brighten it up a bit. That's nice. And let's say it's a bit too orange for your liking, you want to desaturate it a bit, you can click on the saturation and take it down, or you can take it up. So I'm going to exaggerate this image just a bit so you can see what all these settings do. So let's say this green is a bit too saturated for my liking. I can always click on the saturation and take it down. We can also click on the luminance and take that green luminance down. Maybe take that blue luminance down. That is a bit too much. We are trying to create some sort of mood. So yeah, by tweaking these colors here, you can get completely different looks. So I'm dragging the aqua up and the blue up. It will make the blue pop a bit more, make it a bit more purpley. Maybe you want it a bit more magenta-like. Let's see the kind of change that we've done so far. Okay, the image is looking a bit too HDR-y for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the contrast a little bit and add some of those highlights and shadows back. So make it a bit more realistic. The last tab you want to tweak is the split toning. In this tab you get to add different colors to the highlights and the shadows, which is what can really differentiate your pictures from everybody else's. So you have to be subtle with this. If you go too far, it will be too obvious. So just pick a couple of colors that you like. If you know what a color wheel looks like, or if you research, I'll actually put it right up here now so you can see. Usually colors on the opposite side of the spectrum work well to complement the image, but you can always break that rule. You know, you don't have to follow the rules always. So let's just choose a couple of colors that we like and see what they look like. So I'm going to try and put a bit of, let's see, maybe a little bit of purple to my highlights. You have to be quite subtle with this. Choose the color and then the saturation tells you how much it adds. So I think I'm going to go a bit more to the purple side and be a bit more subtle with it. And then let's go here on the shadows. Let's increase the saturation so we see what we're doing. Let's choose a red orange kind of look and then tone it down a bit, tone it down. And with the balance you can tell it if you wanted to focus more on the highlights or the shadows. I think I'm going to focus a bit more on the highlights. Okay, that's looking quite nice. Maybe a bit more subtle on the split toning here, just a little bit. One last thing you can add if you want to go for more of a film look for your image is fade. So what you want to do is go to the tone curve, click on this button right here. This is what it should look like before you click the button, and then when you click it, it gives you this option. If you drag this point up, it adds a fade to your image. Again, you want to be subtle. You don't want to overfade it. Just a little bit. Okay. And if you want your audience's eyes to go straight to the middle, you can always add a bit of vignetting. So if you go to the effects tab, you have post-crop vignetting here. If you lower this a little bit, again, subtlety is key. All right, now we have the total edits that we want to add to a preset. You want to add these before you do any cropping or lens corrections or straightening or exposure compensation, because obviously every photo that you take will be different in those regards. So these are basic tweaks, and the color. So if we go here to our presets and click the plus sign, we can select what we want to pass over. So we want to pass pretty much all of these things except for the transform, the selective, if you've done any selective tweaks, which we haven't. Let's name it preset tutorial, and we'll save it to my preset folder. As you can see, I have some other ones as well. Let's see what this preset looks like on another image. This is a picture I took in Greece. As you can see, it's quite underexposed, so we will need to tweak it a bit after we use the preset. So all you have to do is click on the preset. There you go. Like I said, it's quite underexposed. So what I'm going to do is, and this, you will have to do this with every new image, you will need to tweak it just a little bit. Increase the exposure. At this point, you can always crop and correct your transformations. So you can use a transform tool and auto to adjust that. Okay, let's try the full. Remember, if we crop it for Instagram 4:5, that should be pretty nice. Even though it stretches out the image, it works perfectly. This looks really nice. Okay, I've done another 2 images so we can compare what the preset looks like with different kinds of lighting. You can see here, if I go in my develop module, the before and after. That's quite nice. And here again, before, after. So now you know how to create your own preset in order to have a nice consistent Instagram feed. Alright, that's it. I hope you learned something today. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any recommendations whatsoever or questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. See you in the next one.